Hello everyone and welcome back to newearth.land, where we are liberating people from compulsory labour for survival. We're decommodifying shelter, energy, food and water. We're making those things basic human rights so that we can have a right to exist and we don't have to pay to be alive. Seems absurd, doesn't it, really? But in this small mini-series, I'm going to be discussing Agenda 2030. So let's crack on with that. It's a sustainable development plan by these guys. This is the symbol of the UN. And I've put this symbol up just so you can see that there are 8 segments which each comprise 4 slivers, if you like, which creates 32. Add the one in the middle, you've got 33. So what are we dealing with? I mentioned that for those on the spiritual journey, you can see that this agenda was comprised, on the back end of World War II, to create a sort of peace agreement between nations. But it's like, whoa, hang on a minute, where's the power now? Is it in these individual states, or is there some sort of like overarching power structure? This globalism that's increasingly becoming, people are becoming aware of this now. It's no longer seen so much as a conspiratorial kind of like craziness, at least to people who are sort of awakening. I think to the masses it may very much still seem to be that way. And so here we go. It's a 2030 agenda. United Nations plan to end poverty. This is the first principle that we're dealing with in this video, and it's number one because of course that's often the first thing that people come to mind when they think of the better world, is what end poverty. But they're good at saying things and not actually meaning them, and certainly not acting on them. And I wouldn't be at all surprised, in fact I know for a fact that that is not really what they have on the cards. Anyway, protect the planet, which is all the sort of environmental issues that we'll be dealing with in the future. Nothing is quite as it seems, ladies and gentlemen. But essentially, they're trying to achieve all of this, and we'll see that they've got 17 plans. It's all very huge in scale. They're trying to achieve all this by 2030. This was initiated in 2015, so they've already had 10 years to crack on. And I don't think, based on my estimates, that poverty has really got any better. And if anything, it's gotten worse. So anyway, the symbol is how it's depicted here on this brooch, and that's often where you'll see it. You'll see it on people like this geezer, who is a known terrorist. Okay, he is a director, I think, or he's one of the head honchos at the World Health Organization. He's called Tedros Ghebreyesus. He's a known terrorist, and he is known to have covered up cholera outbreaks in Ethiopia. So he's the sort of guy you want to have on your team, you see. But the problem is that the woke lefties, I don't want to polarize people, because I still relate to a lot of these leftist concepts. It's just that they're not being executed, aren't they? It's like, it's all good and well saying, let's come together, the United Nations, it's all lovely, but who is behind that? Why are you actually uniting people? It sounds all sort of fluffy if you look at it through rose-tinted glasses, but what if there's a psychopath that's didn't Hitler, like the Nazi Party was a socialist organisation. They were trying to unify people as well, right? So the point I'm making is what is the consciousness behind this sense of globalism that the United Nations seemingly spearhead? Anyway, you've also got people like Bill Gates. What a legend he is, right? In 2020, he's on TV telling you that you need to do this, you need to do that. Suddenly he's like a medical expert. Now he's trying to buy all the farmland. I mean, the world is absolutely nuts. This guy is a psychopath, as is Tedros Ghebreyesus. You do not want him on your team. And so if he is on a side, you know that side is not up to much good. So the first principle, like I say, no poverty. And so here's what I'm getting at, right? Look around you right now, in your room, in your house, perhaps even down the road. No poverty, right? So you could say, there's no poverty here. And the essence of my point here is that there'll be no poverty in your immediate environment. They'll clean that up for sure. They'll clean the cities. They're trying to get us into these cities, you see, where they'll say, it's all overpopulated. Yes, because you're bundling people into these cities because economically they're sort of tethered to them to a certain extent. You need to go there for work. And then it will appear to be the case that we're living in a utopia. It's all green and lovely. Look at these beautiful buildings and everything. But the system won't have changed one bit. In fact, it'll only got worse in the sense that anyone who can't afford to stay there is displaced. It'll just be like gentrification on steroids, ultimately. And this is actually sort of depicted quite well in an episode called Nosedive of Black Mirror. I'm sure you're familiar with that if you've come across this video. And this lady is sort of like trying to climb the ladder, but she's constantly sort of gaining points and then giving docked social crediting scores, like just how they have in China at the moment, where like if you say something or think something even or do something wrong or the government doesn't support this, you'll be docked points, and then you could essentially be debanked. They could just say like just like they do in China right now. It's like, yeah, I've got the money to get a train, I've got the money to get on a flight, but I don't have the social credit score to do that. So you go to like buy the ticket, beep, you're not gonna get on that flight because computer says no. And so this whole notion that we will live in an immediate superficial utopia is going to come ever more present, especially when we start considering how this concept of no poverty ties in with 15-minute cities. So it's going to be these localized utopias beyond which you won't, one, need to go beyond because everything will be provided in your immediate environment, which is not a problem in and of itself. It's just that when you look a little bit deeper at what they're really trying to do, is that you won't even be able to move eventually beyond those 15 minutes because there will be certain agendas in place. I've already mentioned, I think, the Hegelian dialectic. So problem, reaction, solution is the layman's terms for sort of thesis, antithesis, synthesis. They create the problem, say it's something to do with the climate, or say it's something like 2020. You now can't go outside of your house. You now can't go outside of this environment. People will become increasingly normalised into that behaviour and will be like caged chickens, like battery chickens. But they'll seemingly be quite peaceful within these systems because most people will be at home and be working from home. And they'll have the VR, like you'll be shopping in VR, you'll be doing everything in VR, be wanking yourself off in VR. Everything will be done domestically and on your doorstep. And like I say, there's certain things that run parallel because they're selling us on things that sound great. But there is always a deeper level to what they're doing. They've got to advertise this. So they're not trying to hide stuff anymore. They're actually just trying to sell us on things. And like you've got people like Yuval Noah Harari saying that the formulation of a useless class of eaters. People who are going to become redundant from society as AI takes over. Klaus Schwab is saying you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And that's the social engineering behind it. You see, it could be very much true that people will be happy, but it's because they've been reduced to a mere animalistic state of consciousness, in which they're just appeased with their immediate desires. That everything is fulfilled. You see, on a base animalistic level, and they'll forget, and they won't be able to spiritually grow. They won't be able to consider things beyond the scope of their immediate environments, and which is where you'll see the actual serious problems emerge, like poverty, and it will be kind of like a Hunger Games scenario. I'm speaking like ahead here, so sort of in the 30s, 40s, but this is the general trend now that they're trying to get us into. It's sort of like a technocracy, it's a technological prison. That's why I mentioned that Black Mirror episode. And don't forget the Benjamin Franklin quote that those who trade security for a little freedom will soon lose both. So that's how they're trying to do it, right? They're trying to get us to feel secure, and they're trying to make us feel safe. I don't know if I said that right, but it's like, yeah, those who trade security for freedom will soon lose both. So we want to make sure that we stay vigilant. We want to make sure that we can see beyond what's being proposed to us here, which on a surface level sounds all rosy. It's going to be green, it's going to be parks, it's going to be green spaces, it's going to be wonderful. It's going to look like there's no poverty here. But if you look beyond it and just sort of have a little bit more of a bigger perspective, you'll be able to see that there are certain nefarious things taking place on this planet. But, I'm hoping to reach out to people so that we can run a parallel sort of system to this, which we can call New Earth, where some of these principles, like no one wants to see poverty, but we also don't want to be fundamentally enslaved to a social crediting system. We don't want UBI when it means that we will be still controlled, because it will be the government that's spoon feeding us that money that keeps us sort of, buying these material things that we want. It'll seem like some sort of like, Amazon at the moment, Jeff Bezos, next day delivery or same day delivery. All these things are stimulated on a basic level, but we won't be able to expand our mind and grow and see that actually it's the freedom that we need first and foremost, and that's what they're not going to provide you with. And so New Earth absolutely is going to be a fundamental freedom that we are granted by way of us coming together democratically, agreeing that we should all be coming together to design and construct housing for people, not profit. Okay, there's sort of like balance out this notion of socialism, capitalism. Let's decommodify the foundation of Maslow hierarchy of needs, which is physiological base, right? Shelter, energy, food, and water. If you need it to exist, those things should be human rights. And I feel like if we come together, that's what we would agree on. That is that's the plan here at newearth.land. So do join along if you want to live in a better world. Okay, and do get in touch, Adam at newearth.land. I want to kind of run a Zoom group soon, so that we can keep in touch, because so many of these things are done at a distance. We don't know who we are really, like who we're talking to most of the time online. So it'd be nice for us to run a group and just to sort of create a bit of a community. That's the idea anyway, and that was the first point of this mini-series, which is no poverty. Right? They're selling you on something. It sounds good on the surface, but if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll begin to see the true nature of what's taking place slowly. It's the totalitarian tiptoe. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one, where we'll discuss point 2 of the United Nations Agenda 2030. All right, see you later.